creativity alone won't make your podcast a success. I've said it before and I'll say it again and again. A podcast is not just a creative project, it is a business asset and a tremendously valuable one at that, which also means it deserves to be evaluated like one. Let's say you own a coffee shop or a consulting firm or a software company. You'd probably have a pretty good handle on how it was making money for you, how much was going out, how much was coming in, and what success looked like. But podcasting, we seem to lose all common sense, or maybe it's just because there's no consensus on what success actually looks like or how it should be measured. I'd say a fair amount of podcasters assume they're just one viral clip away from sponsorship riches, like Scrooge McDuck swimming in money based on a pithy quote from their podcast episode. Others, including me, swing the pendulum probably too far in the other direction, which is to say, I often tell entrepreneurs who are starting a podcast that the return isn't in the direct green dollars you'll see flowing directly into your bank account. The riches are actually in what the podcast makes possible for you. The clients, the relationships, the speaking invitations, partnerships, and trust with your ideal audience, aka your ideal client, that grows because of your podcast. And I still believe that's true. I still know it's true. But recently, especially scrolling through the feeds of today's guest, I've started wondering if that's the whole story when it comes to what a podcast can do for you and your business. Can a podcast also stand on its own as a revenue generating business? How should entrepreneurs think about direct versus indirect monetization, i.e. money earned from the podcast or by the leads that it generates? Maybe most importantly, what does a healthy podcast P&L look like? That's why I wanted to talk with Ryan R. Sullivan for this episode. He's host of The Ryan Sullivan Show, and he's had his hand in well over 100 podcasts, many for his current niche of CPAs, financial advisors, attorneys, and other professionals who aren't exactly known for throwing money at passion projects. If they're investing in a podcast, they expect it to justify its existence. So today we're talking about what podcast monetization really looks like and whether I've been giving my own clients good advice, incomplete advice, or something in between. Here's my conversation with Ryan R. Sullivan. Hi, it's Courtney. Just had to share a quick note before we get into the conversation with Ryan. Because my company is called Sounds Great, my audio does not sound great in this conversation, but it's a great conversation nonetheless. Enjoy. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for doing this, by the way. This is awesome.
Of course. First question. When people come to me and they say, I want to be the next Mr. Beast, Joe Rogan, Amy Poehler, like somebody who's killing it in terms of making direct revenue from their podcast, I say, see, yeah, that's not my area of expertise. If you want to make indirect revenue by selling your services or thought leadership, whatever, great, I'm your guy, I'm your gal. But is there an in between? Do I have that wrong? Is it not just for people who are in the creator economy to be monetizing their shows?
Great question. So there is a mix that can be done, right, that I've seen. And I'll explain it like this. I have a friend who is also a client. I'm a client of his. He's an accountant. He has about 1,000 downloads a month. He has a few thousand views, a month on YouTube. And he has sponsors for his podcast and sponsors for his events. But that's because he's already mastered the accounting business. And now he's on to giving advice to new accountants. And so those sponsors, they want to get in front of new accountants so they can be their note taker or be their business bank. So in that case, he can charge for sponsorship, not because of the numbers, but because of how niche that audience is. And to have a pool of people who are ideal customers to that sponsor that are listening to something for an hour, that's not something that sponsor company can really get anywhere else. And what they're going to do is they're going to sponsor 10 people like him, and they're going to do ads, and they're going to do other marketing. It's going to be one of the plays, right? So there is a middle ground. We've seen it in these very niche scenarios. And I mean, even myself, like I have done multiple brand deals over the years, and, for large companies, small companies, it's not something that's a core business of mine. But when the opportunity comes, if it makes sense to me and it makes sense to them, then we do it. So that's a sponsor in a sense, right? But it'll only be for a certain duration of time, right? Maybe 10 posts or 2 podcasts or 3 videos or whatever. So yes, there is a way to get paid to create content where companies say, yes, we want to be in front of your audience. We'll pay you this amount and let's, shake hands and do it. But for business owners, most business owners are struggling to grow their business. So to create another business, which is selling sponsorships on a podcast that probably nobody really listens to yet, I don't suggest that. Like, grow your business, be like my accountant, Yuri. He doesn't need to grow the business, right? Mm-hmm. So now he can go and get sponsorship. If we're like, oh my God, where's my next client coming from? I wouldn't go and do that.
At what point would you? I mean, is there a way to sort of do both at once? You have to have X number of downloads or audience size in order to directly monetize your podcast. Could someone just DIY, hey, I love this business, I'm going to mention them, almost like a baked in sponsorship, even before I have a huge following? Is there value to that? And there's no CPM because there's no million or 1,000 yet. But they say, cool, we believe in you. You believe in us. We'll give you $500, $1,000. You ever heard of that? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm with that. If you can do it, do it. I'm not against it. My whole thing is it just depends what your goal is. The way I look at it is kind of like fast nickels, slow dimes. Like, I would rather take all of the time and attention I have with my audience, which is not much because we're competing with everything, to promote essentially my business. That's what I would rather do. But I'm not here to tell people what to do. If you want to do that, do it. I don't see a problem with it. And if I were to do it, I've helped people do this before. I would start with affiliate with that company, right? I really want a sponsorship with this company. Okay, you reach out to their head of partnerships. You get some kind of affiliate relationship going. You go look at the stats at the end of the year. Hey, I signed up 25 people for your thing. Do you want to talk about doing something bigger? I mean, that company's probably going to be interested in that. And then maybe you can get the $100 an episode, $500 an episode, $1,000 an episode. I think it's possible.
There's 2 things I want to do there quickly, though, for considering a lot of my audience are people who are just sort of mulling the idea of starting a podcast, whether it's worth their effort for their business. They might not know the word affiliate. I just want to say, when you hear Athletic Greens / Talking the Talk, that's an affiliate. Or you have your own link that you send people to so they can track it to your podcast, essentially.
But that's good to note. So there's 4 ways really that this works, right? There's your standard sponsorship model, which is we pay you for access to your audience and we advertise to your audience. Then there's affiliate, which is we're not paying you. We only pay you when we get paid. Then we give you a percentage. That's affiliate. Then there's your standard, we sell our own services on our own podcast. That means you're your own sponsor. And then there's charging guests, right? And those are like the 4 core ways that podcasts typically make money. But that's really good to know so that everybody understands, like, yeah, there's 3, 4, 5, maybe up to maybe even 10 ways. Those are just the 4 most popular.
Okay, appreciate that, because I think that there's a little bit of monetization 101 for us. A little bit of me, but also my audience. Okay, I think we have a mutual friend, Jason Sircone. Maybe you remember him from Empowering Podcasting Conference. So he convinced me to put in my show notes, buy me a coffee, right? And it's like, hey, did you like this show? I might rename it Buy Me a Beer, whatever, depending on my mood. Okay, so someone gives me $5 after listening. That is certainly not the salary I was making when I was at Spotify, right? But there's a psychological component because podcasting revenue, indirect or direct, is such a long game. So it kind of just gives you a little bit of like, okay, that extra hour I spent booking a guest or whatever, at least there's something. What do you think about that model of, I love the slow dime, fast nickel. Yeah, I've not heard that before, but I like it. But in the meantime, could I just have like a couple pennies, What do you think of that?
Dude, I'm with this. Like, I don't want to, like, I love talking to people, but like, if it's buy me a coffee, but then that's it, just give me the $5 basically as a donation to the show. Like, why not? Right? I mean, this is an approach that I don't use, but I think is a really good approach, which is what my friend Jacob Peggs would call, like, he calls it a micro snack, right? So he upsells people starting at $5 and upsells them all the way to $5,000 and $10,000 offers, right? So this is his entire playbook. He would say, you're never, ever going to pitch any service. You're just going to get them to do the free thing, then the $5, then the 100, then the 2,000, and then go from there. So this is like marketing funnel stuff, but I think that's like the buy me a coffee is more of a personal thing.
Right.
If that gets you to keep recording, do it. Whatever gets you to record. The recording is the hardest part for people. That's where I don't have time. And now we have kids are going to here. And now I got to take them to this. And then we have an appointment. And then by the end of the month, then we didn't record, right? So if that gets you to go, you know what? I'm actually super motivated. I got $20 today in buy me coffees. I'm going to go record another 2 episodes. I am totally down for that.
So what about, you talked about the different kinds of sponsorships, but what about, it seemed like it was all the rage back when I was just leaving Spotify a couple of years ago, the whole subscription, gated content for your audience. And what I've told people is your audience may want to develop a deeper relationship with you by having something special that people who don't pay you don't get. They kind of want to thank you in the same way that buying the coffee happens, right? But is that not for the people who are using their podcast as a lead generation mechanism or a part of their business thought leadership, right? Have you ever seen anyone do that?
Oh, yeah, I've seen people do it. I have a client with a school community right now. We have about 800 listeners a week. And so we're moving. We know that there's more clients in the audience. There's probably about 3,000 to 5,000 listeners a month. So it's like we know that there's more clients in there. We just haven't had the activation points, and that's a fancy way of saying we just haven't had a bridge for them to cross. They don't really want to email. They don't really want to book a call just yet. So I see a community, whether free or paid, whether hobbyist podcast or for a business, as just a bridge to create more intimate experiences for the audience. And intimate just means closer to you, and closer to you means closer to doing something, right? Like, this is how I look at it with business. What we're doing with podcast episodes is creating songs, right? And at the end of the month or at the end of the year or at the end of the season, we have an album. And that's great. I want you to listen to the music. But what I really want you to do is buy a ticket to the show or buy some merch, right? That's how we really make money, right? Or in this case, like if you don't want to look at it like that, it's just that's how you fund this all, right? It doesn't have to be like we're just making money from this audience. It's so you can fund better stuff, right? What you're doing is you're giving them a meet and greet. That's what the community is. So this is all done. If you look up, if you look at Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, anybody, right? There's a reason why Ed Sheeran, just out of the goodness of his heart, I bet he wants to go and meet a fan at their house. I bet it's out of the goodness of his heart. But is he selling another, X amount of copies because that? Yes, that's experiential marketing, right? It's all for a reason, right? And that's why, like, it can get a little like, oh man, like we're just, being marketed to. No, this is all, in my opinion, this is all positive stuff. Like, this is creating these ways for people to connect with you, whether paid or not, doesn't matter. That's something that they might want. And if you don't have it, then they can't get it. And then they're going to go to somebody else who does have it, right? Because that's the world that we're in. So I'm totally with the community. Now, I had a community. It didn't work for me. I may go back to it. Like, it worked monetarily. I made great money, but it didn't work for my life or the business that I wanted. So I stopped doing it. But if it works, do it. I would say, why not?
Okay, I love the music metaphor. Ryan's a DJ and I was a music journalist before. So that speaks to me. And I love that metaphor of now you need to sell the experience. I also love the idea that podcast episodes feel so ephemeral. The feed after, what is it? In most players, after 8, they disappear below the fold. But there is this feeling that you're creating a catalog that is, unless you're like a breaking news podcast, it is evergreen. And those are assets, just like a song, just like a season is an album. Now, what about after? So let's say I make it big. By the time I'm at season 3 or whenever it is, I'm like, oh, people are still listening to my early episodes. Is there a way to make those work harder for you, your older episodes?
Yeah, I mean, on the audio side, you have dynamic insertion now. So what you can do is you could put an ad. This is what I do. I take my highest downloaded episodes and I put in my own ad. to call to the new ones. So I say, hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode. This episode's from 2023. We have a lot of better new stuff. So after you're done with this one, go to that one. And then I'll also run that maybe in the middle or at the end as well. So yeah, I mean, you can go back and update them, you know, keep the core episode. You can change the file completely. You can make it something different, you know. But yeah, that's what we'll do with audio. And then on YouTube side, I will retitle, re-thumbnail things just to update them because the core content's still good. And, you know, this gets into a conversation about repurposing, which is really just a fancy way of saying, like, most people don't watch most things, but a lot of people watch short things and short, like, clips and short posts and things like that. So, yes, rehashing old episodes, good. But yeah, bringing content back. There's an episode that twice a year I redrop on my podcast because I don't know who saw it. It's a very broad episode, a very inspirational episode where I'm
What is
talking
it?
to
Tell
them.
us. Plug in. It sounds like it's a good
This
one.
is-
You keep bringing it back.
Yeah, so this is when I was on Rob Dyrdek's podcast, if you know him. He's from MTV.
I do.
So, like, he was taking people on his podcast, so I applied, and he had me on his podcast, and he gave me a lot of good business advice. So, yeah, I'll repost that once a year.
And it's probably good for people who land and they're like, oh, Rob Dyrdek. I don't know who this Ryan Sullivan guy is, but I know him. I'm going to hit
Well, yeah,
him on that.
yeah, people have found me through that, too, and been like, oh, I saw you on there, like, you know, we have a podcast, like, let's talk. So, yeah, I mean, all good benefits, and that's why, hey, I'm not opposed to the occasional celebrity interview or somebody
Celebrities
A-list,
take note.
B-list, whatever.
Ryan's
You know,
living.
yeah, for those, hey, you know, Terry Crews, if you're out there, buddy, pop over. But yeah, I mean, that's not a strategy in my, you know, people think like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll just get the biggest people on my podcast. They've already told the story 400 times, like, so
So
episode's
stale.
not going to get any views, you know, but it's still nice as just to legitimize yourself. So anyway, this is not the answer to the original question.
No, I like it. That's okay. We follow the threads.
I like
One
it.
thing I do want to go back to though, you sort of slipped in there and it was literally something I was thinking about right before we sat down to record, which is I always tell my clients and cohorts, this is your space. People pay good money for, I don't want to go Super Bowl ad, even just an ad in a newspaper, right? You are the publisher of the newspaper. You can put whatever you want on it. And if you want to record an advertisement for yourself, you should. I haven't done it lately. Do you do those post-read ads for your own services? Like I might insert here, we'll see, in our interview. By the way, if you liked some of the things I dropped into conversation with Ryan and you kind of want to work with me, I have this. Or I could point to a lead magnet. But it's not within our conversation here because that's kind of awkward, but I put it in after the fact. And it's an ad for me.
Yes.
You ever heard of
No,
this?
this is good. Yes. Yeah, this is great. So I do this with my lead magnet, but I actually created a lead magnet that is relevant to every single episode I create. So in the episode,
The same one
mention
is
it.
relevant? The same
Yes,
one
the
is-
same
okay.
one.
All right,
The
let's
same
hear it.
one
Let's
because
steal it.
yeah, so you can steal this actually. This will probably work for you pretty well. So what it is it's a script. So it's called Script Science, right? And it gives you 20 different episode ideas that already worked for somebody else in your niche, right? So that's why I have this is because nobody's really going to take this script and like use it, right? Because again, the barrier is recording, not
Yeah.
scripting, not
Yeah.
ideas, right? They think it's ideas because they're using the fact that they don't know what to record as an excuse to not record,
Yeah.
even though they are an expert. So every expert has 14,000 ideas. So I understand that's where they're at. They're at the point where they think a script is going to help them. So I give them that. I know it's not going to help, right? We know, right? Listen, you can download the Robinhood app. You can trade a stock. You need a financial advisor, right? Or whatever, like
Yep.
the example you want to use, right? You're not going to generate doing it by yourself. You're not, right? So it's the same thing here. I'll give you the script. You're probably not going to record anyway. I hope that you use it. It's really good. I make it really, really good. So people compliment it and they share it. But that's what I do. I have one lead magnet that for every single episode, for any post, for, on my profile, on my, Instagram account, everywhere, that works with every episode, that works with any topic, that I weave in, and that's how I do it. So I don't have to have any sort of like read. But at the end of the episode, I just say, no matter what it is, right? Maybe the episode is this: 4 ways to monetize your podcast. At the end, I'll say, hey, now you know, right? You know how to monetize your podcast. Great. But one thing you can't do is monetize a podcast if you don't have a podcast. And if you don't have a podcast, then you need to know how to record one. Well, I have the solution to that. It's called Script Science. It makes you not have anxiety while you record because it gives you a format to record in, right? And then they go, oh, okay. And then some people download that. So that's how I do it.
I love this so much, all of it, especially you said it twice now and I clocked it before but didn't follow it. People get in their heads. People are like, I want to be like Ryan. I see he's super successful as a podcaster, but man, I have to figure this out. What's it going to be called? And I hate the sound of my voice. I need the right microphone. I need the right headphones, right? How do you convince someone? I mean, I know you and I do similar things. Clients or prospective clients who are like, I think I want a podcast, but it's so much work. I don't know if it's ever going to pay for itself. Because this is about monetization too. Like, how do you get your podcast to earn its keep? How do you convince someone that this effort of sitting down is going to pay for itself?
So, I don't do that. But just because it doesn't work, because I've done it. The thing is, I could get somebody to do a podcast. That's the problem. They can see, and you too, right? Like there's a lot of power in showing people how to do these things because they will really get excited about doing it. But the thing is, they'll only do 2 or 4 or 8 because they can only rely on your excitement and motivation from you for so long, right? So I don't ever convince anybody to do anything. If they say they don't want to do it, then I say, great, good thing you decided that you don't want to do it, so now you won't waste time. Now go find something that you like doing. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's networking events, right? Maybe it's webinars. I don't know. That's good, right? Even spending money to find out you don't want to do it is great because it's way faster and you don't waste the time. But what I do is I do have a service where you don't have to start a podcast. So I created that for people who don't want to even have to put it on their own calendar. We'll put it on their calendar for them. We'll do the podcast with them, right? Some people like to do it like that, and they see that option and they're like, you know what, that's better. I don't even really need a podcast. I just want the clips from it, or I just want the transcript, or like my blog person said I need content, so we'll use it for that. I have people who do it and they use the videos for ads. So I don't decide what they do with it, but we will actually sit and record with them, or I'll just say, okay, maybe you don't want to do it.
That's not for you. I guess I mean more like I have people who are in my cohort programs or whatever. They're like, this feels like such a slog, but I know I want to do it. But, for example, Sam Parr, you've probably heard of him. I saw him at a conference and he was like, my podcast is the most valuable asset in my business portfolio, but it took me a year. And so I guess what I was looking for is that like sort of very laborious rainbow of making a podcast, like how you help them see what it'll get. But I also like your point that we shouldn't force people to do something if they don't want to. But there's that tension between, I want to do this. It feels like a slog. I haven't gotten that buy me a coffee, $5, motivate me to sit down and record. But I don't know. The problem is I don't know. So I can't get them excited about something where I don't know what I'm getting them excited about because I don't know and you don't know what this podcast is going to do for you until you do it. Yeah. So I can give you, that's why I use case studies to show people that we know what we're doing. I tell them, don't look at them as, oh, I'll do that. Right.
Because then the worst thing that could happen is you do it and you get that, but you never know why you even wanted it. So I don't even think case studies for podcasting are valuable at all because that's why they did it. Right? Like they got 6 months in, nothing was happening. They had no leads and no downloads, and then they kept going. Why? I don't know. That's just what they did, right? Like this happens to everybody, right? Joe Rogan just kept doing it. And then look what happened. It's just or you can keep doing it and then nothing happens. That's my thing. I just don't know what the benefits of your podcast are because I have, over the course of time, so many of them. And some of them didn't. Some of them stopped. Some of them stopped but then did something else. And then that blew up. Some of them kept going for 2 years. then they took a break, then they came back, and then they blew up after that. Or some of them just made 7 figures and they're like, all right, cool, I'm done. I did my job. Like all of them were so different that I can't predict, what's going to happen for somebody.
There's not one. I appreciate that honesty so much. And I guess if we both knew the answer to the why, we would be even more wealthy than we already are. I feel like case studies, though, you're making me think, because I always try to qualify them and say, I even have in my contracts, past results do not promise future success or something. I don't even remember the language, but it's like we're a car commercial. We need that fine print that's like your mileage may vary when it says like how many miles per gallon. Like depends on how fast you're driving or, what kind of gas. Anyway, we're full of metaphors. I wanted to ask you about, because you've mentioned a few different times the different channels. When we think about monetization, the podcast doesn't exist in isolation. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Let's say you do get to the point where you're in the sponsorship game. A sponsor can also buy your Instagram surface or others. Can you talk a little bit about that, what that kind of packaging looks like and what people should think about?
Yeah. So, in terms of the sponsor side, that is what you want to do, right? So if you're talking to a brand and they're saying to you, okay, we do want to sponsor this. We want to sponsor your podcast, or we want to sponsor your Instagram account or whatever, we want to get access to your audience. The best thing they can do is do it for the longest period of time possible and in the most in-depth way, which would be more of like a partnership, right? That's really what you want. So meaning you want to be in the caption of the Instagram post. You want to maybe be on the profile, sponsored by, this company. You want to be in the hook of the podcast. You want to be in the outro on the podcast. You want to be in the podcast show notes. You want to be on their website. You want to have a mic box on this mic right here that has their logo on it. You want to be embedded, right? Because that's what, we're talking about micro influencers, right? Like people with followings, but not viral, massive followings. So if a company is going to do that, you want to be everywhere that their audience consumes their stuff, because that's how you make it impossible for that audience to not see you, right? As if you're the brand that's paying for it. And that's where the value is, it's very niche, a full partnership, like I said, not just a one-off video. That's why I have no brand deals right now, because they'll only want to do 1 or 3 or 5. And I'm like, I'll do it, but that's going to just show you that, yeah, we'll get a couple signups, whatever. I'll get you 2 signups today, or I can get you 250 in 4 years. Which one do you want? So yeah, in terms of that side of things, the more that they can sponsor of you, the better.
This is so good. I think a lot of people don't realize that, I've actually said to clients, they come to me, they're like, I have a newsletter audience of 200,000 and I have an Instagram following of blah. I always caution them, those aren't also immediately going to convert to listeners, to just sort of give them some understanding and expectations. However, there is value there for a sponsor once now you've added another surface for them to sponsor. So the question remains, though, for people who are just starting out, they're like, I'm never going to be Ryan. I'm like not ranking or whatever. Is there a point at which, because I've heard it's minimum 5,000 downloads before our sponsors will answer your call. Is that true?
It's true for that would be like an average, right? So like, yes, if you go to an agency who does this, because like you're not dealing with Squarespace, you're not dealing with 8Sleep, you're dealing with an agency or multiple agencies that represent them. So the agency will just say, here's our minimums. And that minimum is usually 3 to 10,000 downloads a month, right? But if you do it with smaller companies, which is if you have a smaller following, then that's what I would do. And then maybe you can deal with the actual company themselves. But that's true, that would just be the average. But it's not to say that it can't be done with 1,000 downloads a month, because we have evidence that it can.
I remember when I was at Spotify, and for a moment, I was working alongside The Ringer, and I got a window into Bill Simmons' approach to advertising. And the way they would evaluate their advertisers they would sit down and they'd say, okay, what car do you drive? Do you like it? Right? And if you're really passionate about your Jeep, then let's go after them. So it would start from the Bill Simmons side. Like I already feel authentically enthusiastic about this product, this brand. Okay, let's go get a deal with them. Granted, few of my clients are going to be at the Bill Simmons level, but what if they're like, I use this particular brand of pen every day. I'm going to call them up. I'm going to see, like, I can gush about your brand forever. Does that happen? Is this just me making something up? Like at a level of not Bill Simmons or Joe Rogan?
No, no, no. I mean, that's what I do. Like, I've never done a brand deal with a company that I don't use every day or every week, you know? So
Wow.
that's where it starts. Well, for example, we're on Riverside. Like, it's okay if
Yep.
I talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
I have had a deal with Riverside.
Mhm.
I've had a deal with a CRM. It's called Folk, right? And I use their CRM every single day. So there's another one called Authored Up. That's a LinkedIn tool that I'm trying to get a deal with right now. And so I've been talking to the owner for 6 months, you
Mhm.
know, like I'm not going to promote another one. I'm just going to keep working and saying, like, hey, here's my numbers. Like, are you guys ready to do this? Are you ready to at least do a trial? Or can we just do one video? Like, I'm going to just act like we're doing this. A friend of mine
Yeah.
has a software, and I said, when you have an affiliate program, let me know. He went and built an affiliate program. Cool. Now I can promote his software, but it's only things that I actually use. And that's, in my opinion, where you want to stay, because I know people who they just do, and I'm not against this, brand deals for a living, you know, and
Mhm.
that's okay. But just your audience, you don't really have an audience at that point, right? You just have a bunch of people who you're using to sell something versus when you do it with something that you really love and use and believe in, to, you know, to that point about the Bill Simmons example, like, that's a true partnership, right? There's like brand deals where we shake hands and then money's exchanged, but that is like the ideal is the partnership, in my opinion.
It's saying it's authenticity, authentic, it's thrown around all the time. But it's because you can feel it, right? If you were just reading an AG or Athletic Greens script, we would know that you are not a user of that product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of it.
And that starts now. I'm starting to think like my wheels are turning. I'm like, oh my God, I can hardly keep this ship running as it is. Now I'm going to be my own brand rep. Do you run this whole show? Like you make those calls all by, or do you have a staff doing this for you?
Well, I don't do a lot of these. Like, I don't do a lot of brand deals. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've probably done three, and you know, two of them came to me, and
Okay.
then I'm working on one with, you know, still with Riverside. They might come back, and I'm gonna just keep that relationship going, right? But no, it's not like if it would take any time for me, I wouldn't do it. But if that's your business, like for example, as somebody, like I have to run the business, like I have, like I don't work in the business really, except for like sales, marketing, doing podcasts, things like that, which is good. You know, I've delegated and I've bought all my time back, but then I still got to do the sales and marketing. So that's my full time job. In terms of somebody who like does brand deals full time, that's their entire working life basically is just regular sales and marketing like anything else. Like
Mhm.
you're just selling your audience instead of selling a service or product. I would rather just sell my service,
Yeah.
you know, because I'm good at it and I know how to do it. And I got local clients, I got digital, I got, you know,
Mhm.
that's just where I spend my time. But yeah, I would definitely like, there are services that can do it. You know, you can have a really great VA you can train to do it. At that rate, it would be unreasonable that you wouldn't have any.
Okay, so you've said you're good at it. I know you're good at it. You've mentioned your lead magnet in terms of selling your podcast as a way to generate leads. I'm already stealing your lead magnet, but what are some ways in which you're sure that your podcast is working for you to that end?
Yeah,
What
this
are
is
your
great.
tactics? Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, so first of all, it's who's paying for the podcast. So is the business paying for it? Okay. Then that's an asset to the business, right? So I'm just a marketer. Like I also own the business, but I'm also the marketer. So as a marketer, I'm going to myself as a CEO and saying, "Hey, this podcast, we don't spend money on any marketing. We spend a little bit of money on sales. In terms of marketing, we spend money on softwares, but we do nothing paid. And all we do is LinkedIn, YouTube, podcast, email. So I can go to myself as the CEO every year and go, how much did we spend on the podcast? We spent 12,400 on production. Okay. What about related software? Okay, another, 600. All right, cool. We're at 13,000 for the year for the podcast. Okay. So how much, what was our total revenue? Do the math, spend on podcast to total revenue. Did the revenue stay the same or go up? Did the podcast spend stay the same or go up? Okay, podcast spend stayed exactly the same. Revenue went up 10%. Perfect. We'll keep
It's
doing the
paid for
podcast.
itself.
It's
Yeah.
paid for itself. So that's how I have to, as this marketer, justify it to the CEO. But that's what I do with my clients is I say, well, who's in charge of this? And they don't really know because they're just the owner, right? And they're like, well, I guess me. I'm like, okay, well then let's do the math, right? So yeah, it's just math. That's how I look at it for me. But again, it's a business is paying for it, not, it doesn't come out of my own pocket.
Yeah. And another way to look at it, maybe think about what kind of client you're seeking, how much that client will pay you. Then you can work backwards from that and say, here's how much I can spend, both in terms of my time. Let's say I have an hourly rate and I'm spending an hour recording and then whatever. So that's math you can do too, right? So let's say my clients pay $15K a month to work with me. And I spend, let's go with the numbers you gave, $13K per year. I only need to get one client at that rate to justify the podcast.
This is it. Yes, exactly. Like, and I look at it like this. This is a good way to look at sales and marketing. It's hunting or farming, right? So hunters, they don't do podcasts. They might be a guest, but they're sniping, right? They know they have a target, right? And they're going after that target. Now, those people are more of like a little bit more of like a freelance way of doing it, like more of a sales-based way. Then you have farmers. Farmers are planting a bunch of fields, right? Any given month or quarter, this one particular field does way better and this other one doesn't yield, right? And so the podcast is one of your fields. LinkedIn is a field, YouTube is a field, podcast is a field, email is a field. And so that's how you can look at it too. To your point, like, well, yeah, we got 18 clients in the year, but our fields only cost us the amount of one client. Great. Now we're at an 18-1.
That is pretty simple math that I feel like now could resonate. And I appreciate you helping us get to this point. I do have some rapid fires that I like to do, and I'm sure these are going to be great. So we'll just get into it. What is the biggest monetization myth?
Sponsorships.
Just period, that's the only way, or say more? I know it's rapid fire, but...
No, yeah. Well, I'll just say this. Like, we can call them a sponsor, but they're really a client. So, it seems passive until they say, well, you can't talk about this in the episode because that's our competitor. And our competitor owns that company. So you can't talk about that. And actually don't talk about this. And actually, we want to be in the beginning instead of the end now. That's called a client. We call them a sponsor. But it's just this myth that this is some passive thing that I build a podcast, I get 10 sponsors, and boom, now I'm on a beach.
It's funny. The next question was sponsorships overrated or underrated. And that's based on something I heard about, like, you're obligated up front to deliver X number of episodes, like whether or not your house is on fire.
Again, client, we call them a sponsor. They're your boss, right? Like, I have a business. I have a bunch of clients. They are all my boss. Now, I can call them a client and make it seem cool. But if they can call you at 8 o'clock at night, then that's your boss, right? That's how I look at it. I mean, is it worth it? Maybe. I know people who have great sponsorships and they make a lot of money. And the ROI is insane,
Yeah.
But are they working full time? Are they working more than full time for that? Of course.
True or false? People think about monetizing too early in their podcast journey.
False.
Point being, never too early to start thinking about it.
Just treat your podcast like a business. And then that informs everything.
All right. Biggest beginner mistake when it comes to this stuff?
Just not doing episodes. Just stopping at episode 8 or 10 or whatever.
Pod fade. We hate that. What is your one piece of advice for someone just starting a podcast?
If you don't like it, keep going. And if you keep going for 6 months and you still don't like it, then probably stop. And just do that.
I think that's great. It's sort of like, this episode's been all about metaphors, but like how you put on your kids' plate vegetables. Take at least 3 bites before you decide you don't like it, or try it.
Yeah, like push through the uncomfortability like at least 2 to 3 times. Like, do it enough to figure out that this isn't the thing, Like, if you do 10 episodes, I don't think that's enough. 50? I think that's enough.
I love that. All right. So thank you, Ryan Sullivan. I just feel like we just scratched the surface, but if people want more of you, where should we send them?
Yes, thank you. This is awesome. You're great. at this, which makes sense. So Ryan R. Sullivan, if you use the R, you will find me. If you don't use the R, good luck.
I know I didn't say the R the whole time. All right.
It's
thank
all
you for
good.
that.
No, people named their kids the same name as me and like millions of them. So anyway, Ryan R. Sullivan, the Ryan Sullivan Show, Google that, or just Google that and YouTube, and you'll find my YouTube. It's all my name, YouTube, LinkedIn, podcasts, all of my name. And then Podcast Principles is the agency that I own, and we produce podcasts for people, and we teach you how to podcast as well, but mostly for financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs.
All right. So, yeah, listen up. CPAs, lawyers, and financial advisors, if you want more. Ryan R. Sullivan is the guy for you. I had one like totally tangential question right there. Oh, did you rename your podcast? Was it always the Ryan Sullivan Show?
It's had probably 4 names or 3 names.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
I appreciate that because you're a successful podcaster. I'm constantly telling people, stop obsessing about the name. You could change it later. Don't worry.
Yeah, you could change. You know, I changed it for where I was in my life. That's why I changed the name. It didn't fit where I was anymore. I used to interview rappers, you know, and singers, and that's what I did. And that was a great podcast. It was called Bopcast. It was so much fun. It was awesome. That time in my life ended, and then I went and changed it. The deadlines you make for your podcast are just made up. This is fun. It's podcasting. It can be fun. You can change it, you know?
I want to like play that on repeat for my clients and cohorts. All right. Thank you, Ryan. Enjoy the rest of your day. I love this. I'll keep in touch.
Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it so much.
I went into that conversation with Ryan expecting it to be all about revenue models and sponsorships and advertising and CPMs and words that might make you go to sleep if you're not really a money focused person. But what really stuck with me is that he said podcasting should be fun. Sure, we talked about basically the equivalent of a podcast P&L, but I think the fun part is so easy to lose sight of when we spend all of our time talking about ROI. Yes, I'm pointing at myself. The irony is that podcasts do become valuable business assets, ones that build trust, attract new opportunities, and generate revenue because the host, they're clearly having fun. Granted, there's a lot that goes into the preparation and the production, but the ones that develop a real following and an audience of often clients that will eventually work with podcast hosts who are having fun doing it. You certainly can't fake consistency or stamina, not for very long anyway. Which is why if you're still wondering if you should start a podcast, my advice remains think strategically, know in advance what success looks like for you from your podcast, engineer for it, have those call to actions that you want your audience to take as a result of falling in love with the fun that you're having on your podcast. Treat it like a business and trust your ideas. But then get on that mic or heck, even your voice notes app and hit record because you really don't know if you feel comfortable or even derive joy from being a podcaster until you try it. You can't think your way into that knowledge. You got to actually just do it. If you're feeling like a podcast sounds like a lot of fun, but you can't get out of your head and onto that recording, let's talk about it. Maybe podcasting will be the most fun you've had in service to your business ever. Or maybe you'll find out you actually do hate it. Either way, I'm confident that having a conversation with me would yield results. As always, my email is Courtney@soundsgreatstrategy.com. I genuinely would love to hear from you. As you can see, I like talking about podcast strategy a lot, with you included, I'm sure. Until then, this is Talking the Talk, a podcast about podcasting. Thanks for listening. Thanks for recording if you've managed to get to that stage. Keep doing both.